what I mean by that. Uh, survivor syndrome, aka self-loathing, and also shaming of oneself. These are on the increase because of social media. Struggling with exercise, obviously, not necessarily the one you would expect, be it not able to implement, being able to implement it, but actually doing the reverse and doing too much. Giving up, which has an association to depression. And then finally, rejection and the need to change because of somebody else's ideology. So the one I'm going to first touch upon is obviously the survivor syndrome. And this is probably a very poignant one, very important one to look at, because obviously the self-loathing and the shaming of oneself, and this will probably link to, obviously, was that number 5 with the need to change because of somebody else's ideology, because it comes down to inner belief, confidence, and an actual, I won't call it respect to oneself, but an appreciation of oneself to keep pushing forward. So the self-loathing is actually, to a certain extent, you could call it a mental disorder. It's something else taking over your being. I know I'm going quite deep with this in terms of talking about it from that perspective, but obviously, when you're in a state of confidence, you're confident in yourself. You're in a state of content, happiness, and a place of positivity. You won't think like that. You generally will think twice of shaming yourself, thinking badly of yourself. David, thanks again for jumping on. I won't even try and pronounce the rest of your surname. And that's the basis of the first one. Obviously, it's on the increase because of, be it body confidence, body image. People are not content with how they feel because there's this illusion that, be it Instagram, Facebook, magazines, television, are portraying this sense of perfection from a body image perspective, and people are trying to replicate it, and they're not hitting, per se, the time frames that these publications are talking about. And most of the time they're very, very unrealistic, because they don't talk about where the starting point that individual has come from in the first place. It's, if I use a sporting term or example, should I say, to make my point more clear where I come from, be it if you come off the street and try to make a national team, are you going to be able to do it? Probably not. Whereas if you relate that to probably nutrition, well-being, health, and all that follows, you probably would be a little bit more realistic and say, well, this time period of getting six-pack abs in, what's something really outlandish, 60 days, you push that out a little bit further, the actual boundary of it, you'd feel content. Those won't then apply, they won't come about, and you'd feel a lot happier. If I go to my third point of the video, struggling with exercise, and this is where it probably comes to a point of, if I use fitness and nutrition in the same light, it becomes an obsession. You're looking to find the very, very minute details to find perfection. Obviously, if you look from the food perspective, you're going to start hating food. You're going to start, God, how would I do it? Not even fine tuning. You're going to go to the minute detail of looking at every packaging, every packet, and go, you can't live like that. So from that basis, you need to take a step back. On the exercise front and the fitness one, this is a compulsion. There's going to come a certain point in time where that is going to become a burden. It's going to become too much. You're going to reach burnout. And obviously, if I use the analogy of the athlete again, they won't even train every day, 365 days a year. There'll come a point of, be it if I use one sport in particular, rowing, they'll go for a 60-day period, get 1 day rest, 60-day period, 1 day rest. Whereas this notion of you can train at, God, how would I even put it? Non-stop and not be able to succumb to burnout, fatigue, and all of that goes with it is impossible. You're not a robot. So it's remembering that you need to take that step back in all facets of life, and actually, where do you actually see the progression and those marginal gains happen? Obviously, when you rest. So it's remembering that that you need to implement that from time to time. Obviously, this notion of, I go to the next point, giving up. When you actually internalize things, you get into that victim mentality, and then things start to spiral out of control, and you start to, I don't think giving up is actually the right word in terms of it. You start to a certain extent, not caring. And I use myself as the example because, be it, and I'm okay with talking about this, mental health, you get to a certain point as you're going down into that, I'll call it dark space, low point, rock bottom. You sort of don't care. You don't care about your appearance. You don't necessarily give a damn about what anybody else is going to think about. This is for that's a negative side of things. Be it you shouldn't care what other people think anyway. But be it from that example, you don't actually care how you think about yourself. So that sense of probably pushing forward and using this growth mentality and using actual mindfulness, what I actually was going to build into this longer video today, is where you're actually giving up. You kind of give up on yourself, you give up on your goals, you give up on, if I'm brutally honest, probably life to a certain extent. And obviously you can see where I'm going from. The extreme is to a certain extent suicide, doing something, I'm not going to call it stupid, but dangerous. And obviously that can transpire. But obviously I got to a head with something, and then thought, well, I want to get better, and kind of started to come out the other side. And then the final point is obviously rejection and the need to change because somebody else's ideology. And the rejection, I think, is because you're not conforming to probably society, or how society is viewing nutrition, fitness, wellness, be it from, if we talk about reality television, magazines, the darker side of Instagram, it portrays obviously perfection, whereas that doesn't exist. Then you feel kind of let down to yourself because you're not living up to those expectations of, obviously, I'll put it in the words of obviously somebody else's ideology, be it television producers, Instagram influencers in general, and be it, I think if they actually took a step back, and this is probably my final take from the video, and actually showed the realistic side of life, be it failure, be it how they look predominantly the rest of the time, and not betray this perfection of I look like this all year round. And in fact, it's probably from multitude of photo shoots, and it's spread out over the year. Mine, to a certain extent, I will do that because with photography, I can utilize people I know within the club and then utilize it. But then I will do, the picture might look perfect. I don't always do that, but the content will tell a different story. So I'll build a story within it to show a lighter side, a darker side, an impactful side, or probably an impact. It's trying to relate a story to the journey. It's not necessarily I'm trying to say, well, you need to look like me, you need to be like me, because I think at the end of the day, and this is the take home from this video, if you've got to the end of it, because I know it's probably very, very long, you need to do what's best for you. It's remembering we all are unique for a reason, and it's not straying away from that. So that is my video for today. A little bit longer than, well, a lot longer than normal. So I'm gonna give my shout outs and I'm gonna wrap it up for today. Mira, thanks for jumping on the live. David, thanks again for jumping on. Dylan Cummings, Andrew Flowers, Jade Jones, Rec Burris, Jackie Jones, and Carola Ferro. Thank you all for jumping on. If you are watching this in the replay, as usual, put hashtag replay, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the video. So until tomorrow, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again tomorrow.